Our troops are coming in packs towards your domicile, Mr. Martick. Your constant lies. Constant deception. We have had enough. Our soldiers are trained and better than anything your society could muster.
Hello, Mr. Martick. This footage is addressed to you. Stop with the lies and the deception. The things you say about fish, the way you speak of fish is rude and unnecessary. We are assembling a brand of troops to siege your domicile. Be aware that your safety is no longer applicable. Watch to the left. Our soldiers are engaging in a specialized training routine. We gave you enough warning, now we send a message in the strongest form. Goodbye, Mr. Martick.
Hello, my name is Professor Martick. This is Fish Analysis. Today I teach you the Fish 101, introducing you and detailing all of the domestic and edible fish used for TEFL food production. These fish are the green fish, blue fish, and red fish, and are easily led. They're simple-minded and perfect for farming and food production. While they maintain your wits, even in their natural habitat they can prove to be some threat if your hands get too close to the vessels that encapsulate them. Before I begin, allow me to explain my credentials. Relating to wild fish, I have several doctorates in Fishology, and I covered these based on evil fish, known as Aquaevil. This examines the effects of evil fish on the environment and humans that surround it. Now allow me to introduce you to the guests. I'll be starring on this show. We will have appearances from reputable spokesmen from TEFL, JC Rontag, and Pukan Feast. Introduce yourselves. Now, to start with the analysis, let's talk about their physical traits, such as their dimensions, appearance, and location. These fish all vary in sizes compared to each other. However, they're all relatively sizable. We begin with the green fish. The green fish is very long, stretching out to roughly 3 meters long, and maintains a very slim and thin body, only roughly between 10 to 20 centimeters in width. Its height is not too sizable either, being roughly 5 to 10 centimeters as such. It is an algae-colored green and has a thick membrane above its scales that coats the entire body. They can be located in coastal TEFL factories along most shallow waterways close to countries. When it comes to my rating of its danger level, I would rate it about a 2 out of 10. It can bite you, but it's so thin, it's so small. It also finds itself heavily regulated in factory conditions. It could not jump out to save its own life. Only death for this fish. But death for us so we can eat another day. They serve us in our stomachs, and they make a good flavor in the fish mix that TEFL supplies. These fish generally travel in large packs and bunch close together. This is genetically predisposed as it helps with the efficiency of gathering them in large proportions, avoiding the unnecessary energy expulsion looking for each individual fish. This behavior applies to all the fish generally. If one of these fish decides to foolishly attack you, prepare your defenses by simply striking it right above its eyes. This will disable it due to the amazing work TEFL has done to domesticate these evil fish. Now, JC, Pukan, what is your stance on evil fish?
So? Well, I guess if I were to speak here, I think that the harvest of such fish creates quite an industrial boom for us, and indeed, I believe it creates jobs for many people, and TEFL, as being a big industry, wouldn't be anywhere as big without fish. So in some way, the evil fish do have some place in the world, but only to serve us when it comes to how many units we can harvest over time. So I would say that it's a little more complicated than simply saying evil fish bad. I think that it's more that we have some, complicated relationship with the units we harvest, like we
Well,
would with any inanimate object.
I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say that evil fish have kind of a connection with us or anything, because we know for sure they're evil. I mean, the tangible effect that they've had on our society in past tense, the information we've been provided with on how they impacted our culture and how they had attacked formerly what we had created. I think with that, it's not safe to assume that we have any connection with the fish. We understand that these fish, at any chance they get, they'll get at us.
Yeah.
They'll try to
We
attack us.
obviously need to have good containment procedures, but it's just that once we have the containment procedures and we avoid more fish villages like the accident 200 years ago, once we avoid those such things, it is much easier to profit, so to say, off of their lives and make lots of units and sell them to people. And with efficient price as well. It's one of the most efficient food sources. So even though, yes, the fish are very much ones to be controlled, we do control them now. Though I would wonder if the PR spokesman would want to speak.
Yes. What do you have to say, Pukin?
Yes, we understand that these fish are really, really bad. We don't want to put ourselves under the bus or anything. We understand with the people. These fish are horrible, horrible creatures. But I mean, look at the food. Look at what we have. This industry is booming. There's food on your plates. We are eating the evil out of this world. And of course, there have been accidents. But at the end of the day, the fish are really suffering. This is really good for us because we get to eat and the fish suffer. And they may be evil, but we keep them contained. We ensure that these products come straight to your door, and they're edible and they're delectable. I mean, these green fishes, they taste so good. I can't get them out of my mouth. They can't even cause that much evil because they're so tasty. They get eaten in the wild if they escape. They're not that vicious, but they're mighty products, I must say.
And you see, that's the beauty of it, right? It's a great consequence for what they've done, because we understand that they cannot be redeemed. So now they provide us with this resource that we kind of extract from them. And
Definitely, yeah.
this helps balance out the kind of the malevolence in the world, because we're able to suppress it to some degree. And that's why the war on fish exists.
Yeah.
Because it keeps everything contained.
I would certainly say that the naval action of the government is certainly worth it, as even with our local teffel production, we have a decent amount of food supply. But with teffel food production, it gives us safety, it gives this bread basket in case you ever need some. And there's definitely been times where we've worried about famine in places, and the HRFS has been inept to dealing with such things. Whereas without our teffel food products, those people would have gone hungry. And now with them, we are, as the spokesperson said, we are using their suffering for our advantage, which I think is very much a great benefit to our society.
Yes, it's very useful. And the next question I would like to ask both of you is, what do you think about the green fish? Now, I know a lot of people tend to say that it's dangerous, but generally it's so thin that it can kind of be overpowered quite easily in most adverse cases. Now, I want to know, what do you think about the green fish? Do you think it's dangerous? Do you think we should be concerned? Or is everything under control?
I mean, when you look at the bigger picture, these green fish are they're pretty stable as they are. They're not harmful at all, really. If you look at the fresh food rating on them, they're only a 2 out of 10 danger level. They're not that difficult to wrangle, and they haven't had that much of an impact on the people in recent times. They're definitely evil, but we've kept them under control for a very good amount of time, and I don't expect them to be of any threat to the public anytime soon.
Well,
how about you, Jess?
I would like to elaborate. Say, there's always risk in anything, any single task. If you were to walk across the road, there's risk of being hit by a vehicle like a tram or bus. These type of things are possible, and risks do happen, and failures are possible. But the risk mitigation protocols that we have set up have provided us with a very good supply of fish with very little risk. So if I were to assure the public that they are indeed safe when it comes to the green fish, we have them under control, I would say. There is, of course, not a 100% chance of safety, but it is very, very high, I can assure you.
I just wanted to ask, what kind of procedures and methods go into keeping these fish contained? Because I'm curious, and I'm sure that people at home are curious, how you control the process of producing and harvesting the fish.
Well, Martick, I know that in your PhD you did visit some of our facilities.
Yeah,
One of the things designed by one of my teams, actually. The green fish are essentially held in a extruder-like structure, and when they are ready to be used, they are sucked in and then turned into units of food.
Yeah.
So they have them in the little tank and they grow, and when they're done, you immediately can do that. But the tank is reinforced with bulletproof steel, so it shouldn't be. So we just make sure that every single precaution, because sometimes the fish, they're not conscious, but they do act together at times when it comes to certain things by accident. And these incidents can, in the worst case scenario, cause a fish spillage, which is why we have to make sure that we mitigate these things using reinforced glass, and we need to also make artificial ties or else they'll get a little rowdy. And that can cause more
reinforced
problems.
glass? Didn't we say it was reinforced steel?
Reinforced glass, that is bulletproof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's steel as well.
No, we actually haven't found it necessary for steel around it. But
That's
it
interesting.
is trapped inside of a steel containment facility in general.
Yeah.
But the actual containment of the fish specifically is in a bulletproof glass vessel. We have artificial tides, and they create a little environment for them to have fun for a little bit, so they don't...
Wait, hold on. Have fun? What do you mean?
To not break the glass. They can work together sometimes, if not consciously.
Why should the fish have fun, though?
Well, of course, they just need to make sure we have the minimum amounts so they can be extracted and used in the general populace.
Right, so it's more of a deception thing.
Yeah, you could say it's a deception.
Okay.
Simply so the fish don't get rowdy in there and start to cause havoc.
Do you mind if I ask you, Pukan? Did you know about this? Is this something that's common knowledge to you? Do you kind of parrot this to the public a lot? Pukan?
Well, if I'm perfectly honest, the way we treat our fish are kind of like, you could view it as a mockery of their existence. We want them to feel like they're happy in the moment, but in truth, we're really putting them through the process. We don't want them experiencing any potential of, not even just escape, but true happiness. We keep them in blissful ignorance of what's around them, but in truth they are suffering. We want to make sure that people understand that we want to be, we don't want to suffer in the way that they have, and we too understand that these fish need to be treated with disrespect for their heinous actions. They may not be sentient, but we know what they've done to us, and we don't appreciate it.
That's right. Okay, that does sound pretty sensible. I get it now. That does make sense. And there's one last question I would like to ask before we move on to the next fish. I would like to ask both of you what you think about the flavor of the green fish and how important it is in the kind of the roster of fish that go into the teffel kind of fish stick production, and all the fish products they make, because they always use the red fish, the green fish, and the blue fish. What do you guys think?
Well, honestly, I feel like the green fish it may be only one of the 3 fish that we put in our products, but they're certainly where all the flavor comes from. I mean, you wouldn't get any other fish tasting this good without something like the green fish. I mean, I told you, as the wildlife does when greenfish escape, they just can't get enough. They'll risk their lives for this stuff. But we promise to everyone else that we are doing our best to give them the best tasting fish, and so we put this in our products for the sake of the people, you know, to keep them happy.
Yes, that's good. And how about you, JC?
Well, I'm not the person to ask, as I'm not in food engineering, but some of my pals, I know, they obsess over this type of stuff. You know, the right percentage of green fish, which grants the right amount of sodium in the meal.
You know, I'm one of those people, right?
I'm not one of those people.
I'm one of those people. I love the green fish in the food. It tastes great.
I
mean, I don't love the green fish. I fucking hate the fish, but
personally,
I like the flavor quite a bit when you're eating the product.
Yeah.
What I like the line that has the green fish priority. The green fish priority sticks. Those ones are the best when they have like 60% green fish. It's much better than the
like
other products, in my opinion.
Like my buddies in food engineering, I have a pretty fun time doing it. So.
Yeah. Anyway, we continue.
Well, yeah, mostly the flavor, we believe, emanates from the intense suffering of the fish, actually. That's mostly where the flavor comes from.
Because is it hormonal?
We're not exactly sure, but we've had scientists, we've had actual scientists come around and do some testing on some of the fish there, and actually shown higher levels of, I know it's objective, but higher levels of flavor and better flavor when compared to not having the fish suffer.
The thing is, it's mostly about the hormones, right? So the hormones in the fish that are produced when they experience suffering are fear and stress, and the stress hormones have been biologically re-engineered and kind of remade. Instead, to make the fish taste better, it increases the amount of the membrane that is produced on the outside of the fish. So it's really quite interesting. There's a whole study on it up on the internet. It's on the public domain. You can search it up. I'll probably put a link to it in the description or something. But
and it's free after the abolishment of paid scientific documents.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That is pretty good, yeah. But at the same time, I'm not making as much money, so that's why I've come to this.
Surely the HRFS pays you for your work.
Yeah, they do. I'm not fussed because I'm making some extra finances off of this, and I'm still a scientist. They kind of still have to pay scientists, but nonetheless,
scientists get the highest paid.
I'm not one of those elitist guys. I'm not one of those guys that gets all fussed and cranky about the passing of that legislation. I don't care. As long as I'm making a living. I love doing my job. I love working with these people, and I hate the fish.
Check those documents out. They're very interesting.
They are. Trust me. I should know. The people I worked with, they're very interesting people. Much more interesting than me. So you can imagine the text will be very, very deep. There's a lot of knowledge there on how these fish get punished rightfully for what they deserve. Now we're going to move on, and we're going to do the redfish soon. I'm just going to let the text here finish, and hopefully that'll be good. Thank you for that segment.
Thank you for that segment. Reputable and trustworthy compatriots. Remember, I'm just going to insert this. Do not trust the fish. If you think they can hear you, or if you think you can hear their voice, it is deceit. You are being turned into one. The next fish we have to cover is the delectable red fish. The red fish is designed for the fattiness contained in the products supplied by Tefl. Its blobbiness and gelatinous structure provides integrity, firm texture for the product. Although generally the red fish is the least favourite part of the meal for most, it still plays a very important role for Tefl production. Tefl have high standards, and they do not compromise on nutrition, okay? These fish are high in omega-3,
and provide power for the general populace. It's good to have a centrifuge of power in your body. Just keep going around, okay? The red fish is a blobby and sizable fish with rough, stony looking skin. It has a perky jaw that sticks out and has sharp edges on each of its points. This one bites hard. You should avoid that. They measure up to about 30 centimeters in length, 30 centimeters in width. Whilst their height is roughly 15 to 20 centimeters, these fish are very boxy in regards to its build and its dimensions. It behaves more like a useless blob, however. They generally travel in packs, like the aforementioned fish. However, they hopelessly lay on the seafloor until they are scoured up by trawls, which gather our meals. They can't swim, they can't float, they're born and they die. Just don't get near one. Okay? Physically, as they still have some muscle control, specifically in the jaw area. If one bites, it can take off a limb, and maybe more. Which is why we generally gather them during death season, when they all start to die off. Death season is generally manufactured. It's a period of time where the manufacturers stop feeding them food. These fish are genetically forced not to feed off of their fat reserves or any survival contingencies, so they cannot survive on that. Their stupid primordial evil is suppressed within good reason. It is a benefit to us. As well as that, fat is used for temple products to supply our place with good, firm, and well-made food. These fish are found in the deeper regions of Tefl-controlled water, as the pressure holds them down more easily and makes their production more consistent. On a danger level, I would rate this one about a 1 out of 10. It cannot get to you, it's too weak and useless, it'll be stuck at the bottom forever, and thus it would take an insurmountable bad luck to even get close to one. Good luck trying to be harmed by this thing. By this thing's evil, as it has been turned into the perfect specimen for production. Well, I'm going to ask my guests once again what they think about the fish. Do you think differently? Is this more dangerous? Am I ready to go? Tell me when you've got the recording going, Philip.
Yep, ready.
Okay. So, what's your stance?
Obviously, the fish are very plump and very docile when it comes to the amount of actions they can perform against us compared to the amount of actions we can perform against them, as their movability is pretty much useless in comparison to their bite power, which is very effective, which is useless because of their movability. So I would definitely agree if you're 1 out of 10 rating. There is a chance of something that could go wrong, but of course the risk is always there. When dealing with fish, there is always a risk, but the mitigation of the risk is what matters more than the risk itself. And right now, it's pretty close to 100. Not exactly, but it's very much a very low probability event for anything to happen, even severe things to happen with redfish.
You'd really have to get up in their face to do that, and I don't understand why you would ever have to do that. If one of the products kind of becomes obsolete, you just leave it be. If it just dies for any unanimously unknown reason, that's just faulty product. You just let it go, and that's it. And I'd like to ask you, Pugan, what do you think about these fish as well?
Well, I understand that in the public eye, these fish aren't looked on very lightly, due to just general reception, because people have difficulty finding the purpose for it. But honestly, I think the redfish is probably the most important from a product standpoint.
I think they don't like the flavor of it as well. I think they assume that the redfish kind of hinders the taste and the texture of the food, but really, if we didn't have the redfish in there, I know for a fact that it would just fall apart.
I will say, I've heard some people say that they shouldn't even put in the redfish because it will just increase the cost of the overall product.
Yeah.
As the redfish, at times, has been a little bit a little bit difficult to
it
harvest.
It is really technical stuff.
Well, you have to spend
production method.
You have to spend a lot of initial investment. You have to dig the hole, and then you have to hope that you can curtail your losses and make sure that you regain your profits. And that takes quite a while.
It's not that it's necessarily hard, it's just that there's a lot of technology involved in the production process.
We can do it, but it just also takes money as well. And that's one of the lifebloods of this.
Yeah.
Which is also why, as of recent, we've decided to roll out with a new method. We've engineered a sort of chamber where they go into it, and we put them on fiber steel hooks. We essentially attach the redfish one chain on another.
Yeah.
And we simulate the pressure of going at the same seafloor level that we would dig to.
You showed me that the other day, I'm pretty sure. You sent me a few photos and a few videos.
It's pretty amazing because you can actually see from a normal standpoint. And they stand there, they're completely stuck to the chain. And they're only fed the little, they're fed the little food straight into their body through the chain link. There's a tube that goes into the chain link, and then it goes both ways, so it makes sure that all the fish on either side are fed throughout the entirety of their lifetime. Artificial tides are made. So it sort of simulates a real environment while still being very much more efficient when it comes to time and money, meaning that you can make more redfish overall. Though, of course, the downside to this is that these redfish may not be as flavorful, let's say, as your,
But it was never about the flavour.
No, that's not. That's true.
It's probably going to be better that they don't taste as good because a lot of people don't like the way the redfish tastes.
Yeah, but I reckon prices being low is much better. Though I reckon that PR spokesman has something to say about that too.
Yeah. What do you think about the new factory method? I've only heard about this recently because, the other method they used was pretty inefficient. They just used to dig a trench and stuff and put the fish very, very deep at the bottom of that trench that they dig. But now this new kind of pressure method allows them to be kind of stored more closer to the surface. You don't have to spend as long reeling them up, and you can kind of make it a bit wider and store more fish, and kind of, it's easier to extract them during death season. What do you think of this new factory method?
Honestly, I feel like this new method of farming will be loved by everyone. It's definitely a major improvement on the previous method that we've been using, and also the flavor profile that we've managed to harness using this method is a lot more palatable. The fat that we now harvest from this method is also much more firm. It really helps, and you can tell in the new Tefl products, once we finally roll out this method on a large scale, that this flavor and this firm texture will greatly improve the products that everyone enjoys. What people have difficulty understanding, and it's not necessarily their fault, because of course our old method was outdated, but the fat from this redfish, it really gives the flesh a firm texture, and honestly this fat helps the flavor come onto people's taste buds. You can't really get the flavor of the blue fish or the green fish without something to latch onto, and this redfish really helps that. It also makes it so that anyone can really cook up this meal anywhere. If you've tried our new products, which you will shortly, you can just cook them up anywhere. Same with the old products. You can just open up a can, fry it up. You don't need to add any old-fashioned cooking oil. That stuff's outdated. With this new technology, everyone's enjoying this.
And also with the redfish, is there anything else going on with the redfish? I understand that there's new methods to producing it and all of that stuff, but where does it kind of fit in line in the lineage of Tefl products? How many facilities out there are contributing to the production of this, and where does it kind of fall on the Tefl agenda? And also, I've heard some rumors about another method. I don't know if this is true, but I would like to ask you about that as well.
Well, yes, we at Tefl, considering the old method has been becoming well out of date by modern standards, we've been experimenting, and we're not only introducing the current new factory method that we're planning, but we've also developed a new natural method that is much more effective at ensuring that we maintain a higher quality of the fish without compromising on their suffering. We are planning to roll this out soon, and you'll be able to find this in every Tefl can that you eat that contains redfish soon enough.
I got some of this from from JC. He sent me some information on that as well prior to this, but he didn't really know exactly what it was. We just heard it was this new method.
Only rumors. Rumors.
So this is a method that kind of puts the fish in a more natural setting, correct?
Yes. Instead of digging these artificial holes, not even that deep into the water, our new method is utilizing the pressure at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, 5,500 psi, to ensure that these fish grow in a more natural environment where they can be harvested with a greater yield and a greater, flavor and appeal.
And can I ask, this natural method, the word natural implies to a lot of people that it is more humane. Well, humane, I mean, it benefits the fish more. Would that be something that happens as a result of this? Would the fish experience more enjoyment, a better life out of this, or will the fish still experience equal amounts of suffering?
Not at all. I mean, generally speaking, we ensure that the fish experience the same amount of suffering, if not more than the other fish, considering its docile nature, and also the new harvesting methods that we're using, which generally involve a very painful process for the fish that ensures that none of the end product is harmed, ensuring that your plate is receiving the best product you could possibly get in terms of redfish. When we talk about it being natural, we don't necessarily mean that the animal is experiencing a good life, but we are ensuring that the animal is growing to a capacity where the meat is flavorful and it's of a greater quality than before.
And there's one last question I want to ask before we move on, and that's of course very similar to the last one I asked, but what do you guys personally think about this fish and its kind of flavor for you? Where does it fit in line? Do you like, the way this fish fits in with the product line, or are you kind of one of those people that don't really enjoy the flavor of the red fish?
Look, if I'm being honest, redfish, I think I'm in the camp like most people. I dislike redfish. I don't really. I sort of understand the point. Maybe I'd miss it if it wasn't in the food, but at the same time, I would much prefer, at least from what I understand, I would much prefer a green fish bluefish combo, because I think the bluefish offers the most. The bluefish and the green fish offer together some of the most essential things, and I personally think the green fish really complements the bluefish.
I do still think the red fish is like...
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of personal preference, isn't it? But
it's probably my second favourite. I still like the green fish the most, but I actually like the red fish. I like where it fits in because it does often help the food taste a lot more. Like, it's a lot more there, and especially when you kind of fry it, the combination, the general combination, the green fish, blue fish, red fish, when you fry it, that red fish gets a lot more crunchier, the juices kind of flow a little bit more, it's a much better flavour overall, in my opinion.
I mean, everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
Yeah.
But, I don't like it.
Fair enough. I get where you're coming from. And how about you, Pukan?
Personally, I've always been a greater fan of the green fish, but in recent times, after tasting the new line of redfish, I'd say it's become my favorite in recent times. Beforehand, it was still a staple of our Tefl product range, but in the modern era, it's got such an impact on the new product that it really encapsulates all the flavors. Honestly, I'm a big fan of the red fish, green fish combo, but I understand that the blue fish is also integral for, the well-being of the people. But honestly, sometimes when I like to relax, this is my choice.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I mean, you're almost convincing me. But yeah. Okay, yeah, they're good points from both of you. And it's really, really good to have that new information here on my channel, on my show. A lot of the public's going to get the information through this show, and it's also good business for me because we got my friend here, and he's telling us about the new factory method, and we've also got the PR representative here telling us about this brand new method, which literally hasn't been released to the public at all, which is pretty good. I'm actually very, very happy about that, and I appreciate you doing that on my channel in the public domain. I'm glad that my channel and my shows is that much of a priority. So I appreciate that, and I want to thank you before we move on. So yeah, thank you. We'll be moving on now. Thanks to our compatriots on that second fish, a lot of good insight on how they behave. Our next fish is likely the most dangerous, but also one of our most nutritious, the bluefish. The bluefish is designed to provide the protein that is found in most tephel products. It has large, disproportionate muscles with immense vascularity due to the process that the geneticism provides it with. It is generally fed large portions of protein feed in order to sustain the amounts of muscle it withholds. The fish has a pretty sizable length and height, both spanning 1 meter and 30 centimeters respectively. However, its width is ginormous at a whopping 80 centimeters in width. This is mainly caused by the size of the muscle. Its eyes bear on the side of its head, and it has a large and blocky jaw. Of course, to house its infallibly powerful teeth, its scales are a silvery blue, as it cannot achieve more than that simple color, obviously. It also travels in packs, as to be expected, although these fish cannot be kept as easily as the others. This leads into its level of danger. This fish, out of all of these, are roughly a 5 out of 10. This is due to the enormous size of the muscles, making them more physically capable than the other fish, generally and practically all of the time. Tephel's production method is very consistent and capable of managing these fish and their immense danger. All fish are just as hostile as the rest, although these ones have capability. Not only do they have large jaws for their hostility, but also a capable set of moving parts that could get to you in almost no time at all. Although the size of the body can be considered a limiter in specific situations, as the bulkiness of its frame could limit the range of movement, the best defense in a situation like that would be to circle the fish, as its ability to turn would be near futile for anything that travels remotely fast in a rotary force. The fish is stored in Tephel's high security production facilities to ensure its escape is not possible. This fish is likely to be the quintessential part of the fish flavor mix that Tefel provides. Now, this is the fish I know we've been waiting to get some insight on, so I'm curious. What do you guys think of the fish? Where does it fit in?
So, I think with these fish, obviously, I will be speaking from a position of bias, as you might have heard before. Bluefish is one of my favorites, but I definitely think that bluefish are an absolutely vital source in the 3-can mix, especially in the tri-flavor fish paste, which uses all three in a relatively balanced way. I personally don't like the tri-flavor fish paste, but I know it's a very good ration, and some people really, really like it. I know there's a lot of people who will die by the tri-flavor fish paste. I don't understand those people, but clearly there's some market appeal. I would say that's definitely true. And I think the main reason why is because the bluefish offers all of these, obviously, protein, which you would usually have to get from other sources, such as the unethical kennel method.
I still need to ask though, what do you think about the danger of these fish? Because that's a commonly debated topic. You know, a lot of people are concerned that these fish may find a way to intrude the production method from Tefl, and that they might be able to escape and harm people in our society.
I understand that a fish spillage is on the forefront of everyone's mind. Obviously, we are still being affected by fish spillage even today. So this is something we've taken into consideration, and we are assure the public that we have taken the precautions at hand. I'm sure the Tefl representative can speak to that.
Yes, certainly. We've been trying to up precautions regarding these bluefish. We understand that for many people, bluefish is a staple dish, and for some it's a household favorite. In line with this, we've tried to make sure that these fish, despite their dangerous nature, still manage to provide a brilliant taste without harming people's livelihoods. Recently we've been trying to set up factories in colder climates. As you know, these bluefish, despite being excessively muscular, they tend to not thrive so well in cold climates. We've also been applying new flash freezing technology to hopefully reduce the amount of violence we find in these fish. Recently we've been trying new methods of tenderizing as well, such as instead of using a traditional one spike method to kill the fish after freezing them for a while, we use several spikes to ensure that while the fish is still alive, it's tenderized to a point where its flavor leaches out, but you still get that rich, creamy taste that comes from its protein-filled, rich fish flesh.
Yeah, and this method also ensures that it has experienced quite a significant amount of suffering as well, correct?
Yes, of course. Even though the fish are frozen before they are tenderized, the fish are only frozen for so long that they cannot violently lash out at any company assets. They are still capable of feeling pain, and honestly, we want to make sure that they stay at a temperature where they are still unable to commit violence, but they are still able to suffer.
Right, and that also leads me to my second question. Have there ever been instances where these fish have been in a situation where they've rebelled and caused harm to workers or damaged people outside of the facility? Has fish leakage happened before with bluefish? And I'm talking about in the past. I know that now methods are very secure and safe, but has it happened before? Because the public does need to be informed if these fish are dangerous.
Well, these fish, staple fish actually, in the relative grand scheme of our long history, recently introduced, compared to the amount of time Tefl perhaps has existed as a company. But I would say, when it was introduced, we were much more conscious of such pressures, and certainly the risk would never be zero, and over a long enough time something may happen. So there is most likely a couple events which would have caused damage to real people. But of course, since then we've improved our safety precautions. So I can say they have historically, during the first, of course, it was after the fish spillages 200 years ago, which caused all this mess in the oceans.
Yeah.
Those ones were the major ones.
That was totally a unique event. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And fish there were much more vicious than we've ever seen. But to get back on topic, I would say that a contributing factor to why the safety standards were so good on the spot for the redfish, bluefish, and greenfish, included all of them when it comes to three fish trio. I would say that the safety precautions are so good because the paranoia during the time was so high and the pressure on Tefl was so great. And in pressure, Tefl seemed to thrive when it came to its safety precautions. Now, I do still have to preface that the risk is never 100% secure to say that the fish may never do something. I need to reiterate this because there's most likely a few edge cases where people have been damaged, but that's just due to the nature of probability, and it's definitely more potent when things do happen with the bluefish. That is definitely a concern that can always be iterated upon.
And more recently, it would have been, you know, more polished up as the time went on and the method became more assurable and stuff. But like I said, has there ever been workplace incidents that you know of, anything like that?
Not in my lifetime. It's been pretty good.
Okay. And what about you, Pukan? Where does this all fit in for you? How do you see the danger of this fish? Do you see this fish in like causing a lot of leakages and stuff? Does this happen frequently?
Well, understandably, the fish is the most dangerous of the three main in our range. But of course, we've been taking increasing precautions to ensure that there are no further breaches. We've been investigating the few that have already happened, and we've found that the main cause of these leakages was simply that the methods were not up to standard. The factories were not listening to our orders in time, and there were just poor communication errors that occurred. But recently we've been upping our budgets, we've been ensuring that this has not happened in any recent times, and honestly I don't expect it to happen in the future with our current methods in place.
And I wanted to ask, there's recently been some competition from more third-party companies producing bluefish. A lot of people have said that it's not nearly as good as Tefl bluefish, but they're selling a lot cheaper, some of them. What do you think of this competition?
Honestly, I think that when we buy from non-Tefl sellers of bluefish, we're really compromising on the safety of our livelihoods, considering that these bluefish are quite dangerous, and the costs these people are cutting to reduce the price.
They could be laced with something as well, because we know from past tense news that has come out about these companies, they do not have the safest procedures for kind of packaging the food and stuff, and there's been a lot of food poisoning involved. So I would suggest that you don't trust these companies, and they're just trying to sap your money, in my opinion. And I think most of us agree here as well.
I generally think that they're that some like, you know, the bluefish was made during the time of paranoia, the perfect time really to do the best safety precautions and make the best fish. Obviously, tragic time, but certainly it made for good fish. And I just think that these clones are sort of piggy banking off that 200-year event. That event 200 years ago, whilst not actually encapsulating the true spirit of the bluefish, because it is truly a spirit of the company when it comes to how much the bluefish is added to the overall fish flavour.
The fish doesn't really have a spirit, though. It doesn't have anything. It's not...
I'm not talking from a commercial sense. We're not talking about the bluefish in itself, but just...
But would you really want a fish to be your mascot?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that the spirit of the bluefish is almost one of the very integral things when it comes to the, you know, like the taste spirit.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Of the dish.
Yes.
Because of course, well, I wouldn't be saying that there was any spirit inside of bluefish. That would be absurd.
Yes.
To clarify, if that's any implication, I'm not saying that.
No. I misinterpreted.
I'm just talking to the audience now.
Oh yeah.
They could say things on that whatever blogging site they want.
Yeah, don't try and twist his words around. Okay, what he's saying is what he's saying. And there's one last question that I want to say and ask you both, and it's generally the last question I ask for all the fish. What do you guys think of the fish flavor here? What do you like this fish flavor the most? Do you like this fish favour the least? Where does it fit in for you in the overall fish mix combination?
In perfect honesty, it's probably one of the big favorites of the public, and certainly it's one of the ones that I quite like a lot. It's definitely got a high nutritional value, and I think that people at home will understand that it's just, there's so much flavor in it that it's just worth buying the Tefl product, even if you think you could save a few bits of money here and there. The safety and the flavor that you get from buying Tefl Bluefish is superior, and it is much safer than other Bluefish products that you might find at other stores. I mean, we've all heard of recent events of the baby formula poisonings, where people have replaced the Bluefish that they've put inside with harmful compounds and chemicals that are very harmful, not just for the regular consumers, but even the small children who grow up in this world.
I can imagine how that would affect their development. They wouldn't be able to perform as well as us. And what about you? What do you think of it?
Well, I think I believe that this interview already knows my bias towards Bluefish.
Yep.
So I believe I don't need to say much more. I will say that I very much appreciate Bluefish when it comes to the overall meal.
The flavour, yeah. Not the fish itself.
Yes, I don't think I would need to clarify after
Yeah,
last time,
I know, but it's just, you need to be clear about these things, especially on the internet, because you know what the internet's like.
Look, sure, alright. I can't even say I enjoy the presence of the Bluefish without being misconstrued. Let's say that.
Well, that's not my fault,
I know, but surely I could say that, just because obviously people know I'm talking about the meal. The overall meal gets improved, and the protein that it provides, I just think is so good.
Doc, that's what I'm going to say in this matter.
Yeah.
My bias is known. I can't really speak here.
Alright, cool. Well, I think that's it. That's it for the overall assessment. And hopefully this has been worthwhile. Thank you for joining me.
Yes, thank you for having us.
I'll see you out in a sec. I'll just finish up with this. But yeah, thank you for joining me as well, Pukan. It was nice to get you on the call. I'm going to see JC out soon, and I'm just going to finish up here, so thank you. I hope you have a nice day. See you.
Thank you for that insight. Very interesting perspectives from both sides. That brings us to the end of Fish 101. Informing you the extra details of what these fish do, how they behave, and why they exist. These fish are just as evil as the rest, but we have suppressed them to an extent where they can be consistently used for our beneficence, feeding off of their malicious design to increase our power and happiness. Know your fish and know your area, as this kind of information could be vital for your knowledge and defense. Talk to your local fish information clinics, bird doctors, and military men. Ask them everything you need to know about the danger of these fish, and equip yourself for any endeavor that risks contact with the primal creatures that lurk underneath. Thank you for your time, and this was Fish Analysis.